So, your company wants to go global. Sounds great, right? But it's a monumental challenge. I mean, how do you expand across the entire planet while keeping everything running smoothly? It's this massive balancing act between being efficient on a global scale and, meeting local needs. And if you get it wrong, it can be a disaster. So how do the smartest companies in the world actually pull it off?
And that right there is the big question. Because expanding internationally isn't just about planting flags in new countries. It's a super high-stakes strategic puzzle where every single move you make can either unlock massive growth or lead to some really, really costly mistakes.
Well, to even begin to solve this puzzle, it turns out that every single multinational corporation, I don't care how big or what industry they're in, has to make two fundamental decisions. And these choices will define their entire global footprint. Okay, so the first one is dispersion. And this is pretty straightforward. It's all about geography. How spread out are your assets? Your factories, your offices, your people. Are they all huddled together in your home country, or are they scattered all over the globe? And then you've got coordination, and this one is all about control. How are decisions actually made? Is everything run from one central headquarters, or do the local managers in, say, Brazil or Japan have the freedom to make their own calls?
Right, so that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because it's how these two forces, how you spread out your stuff and how you control your decisions, play against each other that creates the actual blueprint for success or failure.
And this is where it all comes together in what's called the dispersion coordination framework. It looks simple, but it's powerful. On one axis, we've got dispersion, from low to high. On the other, coordination, also from low to high. And bam, that gives us 4 distinct quadrants, each one representing a totally unique way of operating on the world stage.
Think of these as 4 different roads you can take into the global market. Each one has its own set of rules, its own pros and cons. So let's dive in and break down what each one actually means, starting with a real classic.
First up, we have the global exporter. This model lives in that low dispersion, high coordination corner. The name of the game here is centralization, power, control, and most of all, efficiency.
And you can see exactly how it works right here. Basically, the whole shebang, R&D, design, purchasing, manufacturing, it all happens in one place, the home country. The only thing that really gets spread out is the sales team, who are sent out into the world to sell the finished product.
So what's the upside? Well, this model is fantastic for efficiency. You get these massive economies of scale, and you can lean hard on your home country's reputation. Think German engineering or Swiss watchmaking. But there's a big downside, right? You're essentially creating a one-size-fits-all product. And that might just not work for customers with really different tastes in other markets.
All right, now let's flip the script completely and look at the polar opposite, the multi-domestic model. This strategy goes all in on high dispersion but keeps the coordination low. It's all about being local everywhere.
I mean, just look at this diagram. Instead of one central hub, the company literally clones its entire operation in each key market. Country A, Country B, Country C. Each one is basically its own little self-contained business, designed to perfectly serve its own local customers.
The upside here is obvious. You get incredible local adaptation. This is perfect for something like the food industry, where tastes can be hyper-local. But that comes with a huge trade-off. It can be wildly inefficient, and you run the risk of the whole company losing its central vision as each country's branch just kind of does its own thing.
Okay, so we've seen the two extremes. What about something in the middle? That brings us to our third model, the decentralized marketer. This one sits in that weird low dispersion, low coordination spot. It's trying to get some of that exporter efficiency, but with a bit more local marketing smarts.
So here's the deal with this one. You keep the core stuff, like R&D and manufacturing, at home to keep costs down and quality consistent. But then, everything that touches the customer, marketing, sales, distribution, service, you hand that over to the local teams and give them the autonomy to figure out what works best in their market.
And that brings us to our final model. This is the big one. It's the most modern, the most complex, and for a lot of companies, it's the holy grail of global strategy, the transnational. This is the incredibly ambitious attempt to have it all, high dispersion and high coordination.
You'll notice this diagram looks totally different from the others. It's not about centralizing or duplicating. It's about creating a globally integrated network. R&D might be in Silicon Valley because that's where the talent is. Design could be in Milan, manufacturing in Vietnam for cost, and customer service in the Philippines. You put each piece of the puzzle in the absolute best place for it, anywhere in the world.
Now, the potential here is off the charts. You get the best of both worlds,
global efficiency, and local responsiveness. It's why so many big tech and car companies try to do this. But, and this is a huge but, the management challenge is just immense. Trying to coordinate that complex global web of activities without it all falling apart is one of the hardest jobs in business.
So we've talked a lot about coordination, but what happens when it goes wrong? Like really wrong? What happens when you give local teams way too much freedom without any central oversight? Well, it can turn into a complete and utter disaster.
Let me tell you about a German radiator company called DBK. As they were expanding into Asia, they chose a strategy with very, very low coordination. They basically gave the local manager in Taiwan free rein to run the business however he wanted.
And, well, this is what happened. The local agent, thinking he was being clever, decided to launch an ad campaign to promote a super German image. His choice of icon? Adolf Hitler. It was, to put it mildly, an absolute catastrophe. It created a massive global PR crisis that trashed the brand's reputation and ended with the entire management team getting fired. It is just a chilling reminder of the dangers of letting coordination slip.
Okay, so that's a pretty stark warning. With all these models, with their risks and rewards, how does a company actually pick the right one for them? Well, it's not random. It's guided by a few really key factors.
Well, the first big question you have to ask is, does it even make sense to disperse our activities? You might do it to serve local needs, like adapting to different ways of selling things. Or maybe it's about cost, if shipping is crazy expensive. It could also be driven by things like tariffs, or even to manage risk, so you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
But you know, there's one last really crucial piece to this whole puzzle. It's not just about your company, it's about the industry you're in. If you're in an industry with high global potential, meaning people all over the world basically want the same thing, then you absolutely need a high level of coordination to deliver that. But if tastes are purely local, then maybe less coordination is fine.
So the next time you're out and about and you see a global brand, a car, a coffee shop, your smartphone, just take a second and think. Are they an exporter, a multi-domestic, or one of those complex transnationals? Once you understand this framework, you start to see this invisible architecture everywhere. You see the hidden strategic choices that are literally shaping our entire global economy.